In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to color your grayscale painting of Albert Einstein. And we're going to be using three different techniques here to do this, okay? And so these are two versions I've come up with as far as coloring him. I'm actually going to close these up here and show you how to do this fresh. So we won't save that. And we don't need to save this one. All right, so if you got your grayscale done, then what you want to do is let's go to save as first, okay? We'll save as and call this color. Okay, you can put your name on if you want to. Like if we were doing this, like MOIRS Einstein color, something like that, and we'll save it. I'm going to save it on the desktop there. Okay, and so let's continue on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the face layer. Now I started something here. I'm going to delete here because but typically what I do is I like to color the face first if I'm doing a portrait, and then I color the rest. And so what we're going to need to do is go down to where your face layer is at, and I'm going to hold down my command key, control on PC, all right, and click on the icon of the layer thumbnail, okay, not the eye but the layer thumbnail, and that will select that layer. Now, I'm going to actually color this over the eyebrows and mustache layer. So I want to select that layer since that layer was next up. And then I'm going to go to down here. Now, we're going to go create new fill or adjustment layer, okay? And that is between your mask and between the new group icons, okay? We click on this, and we're going to do what's called a gradient map, okay? And so that looks awful right now, and it's because of whatever gradient map I was using last. So typically you'll have a gradient map, and we can take a look at different ones here. It depends upon the gradient map itself and your picture. But let's go and look at reds and see if there's anything interesting in reds. I'm just curious. That does kind of a reverse. I've never found any of these existing ones. I'm just showing you some of these. I've never found any of these helpful. They've got a ton of them here. I have one made already. I'll just show you how it looks, and that looks really cool. But what we'll do is I'll show you how to make a new one from fresh, and we'll start with kind of a default one, which you'll get. And your default one may look something like this if you get a default one where it's like that, so it's black to white. So what we've got two of these places here where we can put in, they're called color stops, where we can put in color. And we'll click on the first one here. And what I'm going to do is I want to go to one of my images. Now, I have a couple of images, 3 images here of Einstein. We can actually pick colors off of other images too, but I'm going to start with this. And we're going to look for one of the darker areas in the picture. Since this was the one we were working in the grayscale image, we'll just click on that, and you can see it puts that color in there, okay? Now, we're going to, just like in Illustrator, we're going to add another stop here, okay? Another, or as they call it in Illustrator, they might call them sliders. And what we're going to do is we'll pick another color, and we're going to pick a color that is dark, but not as dark, okay? And then we're going to go and put another slider in here, because the more of these you put in, the more, the better it'll look in the long run. So we get something like this, or maybe let's go over to here, we'll get something more pinkish. The thing is, we want to make sure that the way we do this, and look at that there, is that we want to go from dark to light on this, okay? And so that's why I kind of swapped those out to show you. You get some interesting things that happen there. But anyway, let's continue on here. I'm going to put another one in here like this, and we'll pick off from here. And really, we're almost done. I mean, we might be able to actually make this off of this. And if we want any more in here, I'll just slide this on over here. And maybe we'll try to pick up another kind of in between here. Because what you're trying to do is pick up values. That's interesting. I want to go for more of this color there. There we go. We just want to go from a slightly, each one will proceed down, because you don't want to flip your your values. And I have some students and they have a hard time with this because they start swapping their values. And so let's just drag these on over here. And see, I'm just moving them around here. And you can see how it colors it. It colors it really nicely there. It's a very fast way to color something. We'll slide this one over a little bit more here. But it does such a cool job. It's so effective. We can even pick off colors off of other images. So, if we want something dark, maybe like that, and then maybe we'll pick up a color that's dark from here and slide this on over here, and then maybe go for a more reddish. And see, that looks awesome. Finally, I got something I like here, okay? And it takes a little while, but that's why I say you could pick off of multiple images, all right? You don't have to pick off of the Einstein painting. I actually found this one. I don't know if that really looks like Bill Gates, but I found that on Pinterest. All I did was I typed in color or painted portraits, and that's what I found. I found this. I found this one of James Gandolfini, which is really cool, and we might want to pick off a color here off of him, like that. Okay, and it's so fast. It's so effective. It's a great way to color things effectively, quickly, but you gotta work with it a little bit, like I did. Okay, and so anyway, we're gonna do the hair next because the hair needs to be colored, and we're gonna go up to the hair layer, and we'll just do the hair. And let's see here what else we can do here. I'm thinking of let's do the hair first. And we're going to simply go and we have to select the hair, because here's the deal. If you don't select the hair and you just do this and you go gradient map, then whatever the last gradient map was used, will happen. It's like, if we go and look for the flesh one here, but the deal is it does it to the whole entire image. Okay? And we want to make use of this mask. So that is why I'm having you do this. All right, we'll go back here for just a second here. There we go. And actually, you know what? We're going to save this one because we'll call this a new one here. And we'll call it, well, actually, we should name it before we can click on it, and we can double click it, and then we can give it another name. We'll go Flesh 3, okay, because I've got several different versions of Flesh. And therefore, if we need to get back to that one, there it is, okay? I'll click OK. So let's go back up to the hair layer. And we want to hold down our Command key and click on the icon. Now, I'm going to try something here, just so I can, and this gets a little tricky here. I did this before. I want to, actually, let's select the hair behind layer first. And then I'm going to select the face, but when I select it, I'm holding down the Command key. Instead of holding down, I'm going to hold down the Alt key. And so that will subtract from it, okay? Therefore, I can go all the way back up to here and then click and hold down the Command key and the Shift key, and I'll get that. And so I can color both of those pieces of hair all at once. If you want me to show you again, I'll just do it again real quickly just so you know. So we go down to the hair behind layer, select it. We're going up to the face layer, and when I click on it, we're actually subtracting from that selection. So that's why I hold down the Command and the Alt key. Okay, and we're clicking on that icon. And then if we go all the way up to the hair layer and hold down the Command key and the Shift key, it gets both of them. Now let's go and do the same thing. We'll do a gradient map to this. And I don't know why we keep coming up with this lighter version here, but that's okay, because we'll make a new one here in just a moment. What we'll do is let's get this gray here, and let's look for some grays within these pictures. We want kind of a darker gray here. Maybe I might pick off something off this Bill Gates one. So we get a nice dark gray, and let's move this over so we can actually see what's going on here. On this color, we really want it to be white. We could double click it, or we can go down here into color, and come over to color here, because this is another way you can pick off colors. You can also do color libraries if you want to go through all these color libraries to find colors. You could do that also. All right, but I'm going to go back to the color picker and go to white, like that. And actually, that doesn't look bad at all. Sometimes you may not need an intermediate color, but I'll put something in between here, and we'll pick off of this picture here. And we just don't want to pick off anything too dark. And maybe that. Okay, we'll go over to this picture, because I like this picture as far as color. It's got some interesting colors here. And let's just slide that over a little bit more. We'll slide the darker color over a little bit more, so we get something kind of like this. Oops. I didn't want to put another slider in there. I'm just playing around here to see what I can get that I like. I'm not crazy about it, okay? But what I will do is, I'm thinking of maybe what happens if we put a flesh color in there. And see, that is something kind of helpful here. If I put a fleshier color in there, it kind of helps it blend it in to the picture. I'm just playing here. It just takes a moment. And we can always go back to it. That's the thing, is we can always go back in here and adjust things too. We can take this and we can move this up to where it's a little bit more grayish. And the reason why I picked a flesh color is because one time, a long time ago, I was doing a portrait of Johnny Cash when I was in grad school. And I was painting in acrylic, and I got to his hair, and I was mixing up a gray, and it never worked. It looked like he was wearing a wig. And then I realized, oh, well, I need to actually add a little bit of his flesh color in there to make it look like it fits together color-wise. And so that's why I wanted to add a flesh color in there. So anyway, I just selected this eyebrows and mustache layer. We'll go above the first gradient mask here, okay? Because I want to use whatever we used on the last one here. Let's go back up here to this one. And let's save this one. We'll go to a new one. It adds it in there. And I'm going to double click it and call it gray hair. Okay. So again, let's go back down to this layer here, the first gradient map, because I want this to color the eyebrows and the mustache. And so what we're going to do is, let me just click OK on that so we can do this. We'll click there. And then I've already got it selected, and then we just go gradient map again. And it just puts these odd ones in here. But that's why it's good to save what you have. And see, that looks good too. Now the other thing too is, I haven't done this yet, but let's see what happens if, because right now we've got our blending mode is set to normal. I'm going to set it for color, and let's see if that changes it in any way. Nope, didn't change that. Let's go to this other one here, the first one that we put in. Let's change it to color and see what it will do. And it's interesting because I'm going to undo it. It changes it just slightly. So you can always adjust this and turn this to a color layer if you choose to. It will make a little difference there. It's very slight, but I just wanted to show you that. Okay, so I've got those things colored. Let's might as well color his neck. And what we'll do is let's select his neck. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just go up to this layer and see where this is the mask right here I'm on. I'm going to go hit the D key, and that brings up and so basically what I want to do is fill that with white. So I hit the D key in order to bring up the default fill and stroke, white to black, and then we'll hit Alt Delete, and boom. See, we didn't have to make a layer for that because we just added to that, okay? So now we got the neck done. So let's go down to the jacket layer, and we'll select the jacket. Now here's the deal. I have this layer with it, and we could condense these two layers together, but what I want to do is let's color, because we can color both this, and then we can color the lines separately. Okay, I'm just going to show you this because instead of using a gradient map, I'm going to go create new fill layer. We're going to do hue and saturation, okay? And hue and saturation, we can go to colorize, and we can color it this way if we choose to, okay? And we can adjust the saturation. Now, if there is a color you want to pick off of something, it's important that you bring up your info palette. And the way I have my info palette set up here is I have an HSB, which is hue and saturation and balance. You can always go to your panel options. And so the first mode I want to set up for that, if you don't have it set up for that, you can set it up here like this. But this is so important because if we were wanting to select a certain color here, we'll get the eyedropper and we'll just click on it. It will give us the number. So that says 228 is the hue, and the saturation is 8%. And let's try this one. So this is 218 and 9%. Okay, so let's try this one for instance. And so let's go back over to this image here, and now I forgot my color here. So let's go do this again here. All right, 207 and 7. I'm just looking at the numbers here. All right, 218 and 13, because that's going to be a little bit more saturated. So 218 and 13. So I'm very close to it. All right, this one right here, we could go 218, and then we can go down to 13. And that's going to color that color, okay? Now, we are going to select this. And the only problem is we're going to have to mask it eventually, but I'm going to select that for the moment. And then we're going to go and do a hue and saturation again. And this time we'll do colorize. And we're going to pick a different color here. You know, we could pick a darker color. We could even pick a color from over here. I'm looking at the numbers 12 and 28 is that one. Let's try it. Okay, let's do 12 and then do 28. And it's a really kind of unusual, but I didn't like that. We don't always have to pick off color from images, because we could just kind of scroll through like this and look for something kind of interesting too. And all I'm trying to do is find something just so that he's got different colored threads happening. And that looks good. I like that. I'm going to keep that, all right? So now let's go and pick the jacket up. All right. And what I'm going to do is come up to here. I'm going to do Shift Command I, which will invert it. I'm going to hit the D key, and then I'm going to hit the X key because I want black sitting on top. I want to fill it with black here. And so when I do that, it will keep that color, because I'm using that mask there. I just adjusted that mask to do that. Now, you could just color the whole thing one color, okay? I just like to play around with this since I've got these two layers here. I think it's more interesting like that. But that's basically how we color things. It's so quick and easy, you know. We can adjust the shirt. I'm going to do the shirt here. And we'll go to the shirt layer. And I was actually thinking of doing something like off of his color, which is 43 and 33. Okay. It's very warm. It's very yellowy. So let's take a look at it. And we'll go to here and we'll do hue and saturation again. And then we'll do colorize. And guess what? It picked up 43. Didn't pick up 33. Okay. And we can color his shirt that color. All right. And then for the vest, you know, we can select the vest itself. And I'm just selecting it here. There we go. And then we'll make a new hue and saturation layer. And I'm just going to color the vest all together here. This is actually that color. So let's just go to colorize and see, you know, what kind of color vest we want to give him. You know, maybe we want it to be more brown. I'm just playing around. You know, maybe it's more blue. Maybe we want to pick something up over here because he's wearing a warmer color vest here. And those numbers are 16 and 25. So let's go back to here and see what 16 and 25 would look like, just to see. That's 0. 16 and 25. It's a brownish vest. So very simple, very easy, as you can see. And, I can keep coloring things. Let's do his tie. Okay, let's go up to the tie layer. We'll select the tie layer and then go hue and saturation, and then let's figure out color we want to make for his tie. Maybe we want something unusual. Maybe we want that color there. That's 304 and 31. So let's go to here and we'll do 304. Maybe not 31. Maybe we'll take it down. Maybe it's because that's heavily saturated. I'm just trying to drag this over here. There we go. So we give him kind of a purple tie. All right, and also we can color the background layer because the background's got. I did paint a little bit in the background to make it interesting, and so I'm going to go to the background layer. Now because I'm going to color that whole layer. As long as I'm sitting underneath the jacket layer, I don't have to do the thing where I select the layer, okay, or make a selection there. We'll just use hue and saturation for it, and we'll do colorize, and we'll just pick something. I don't know. I was thinking of doing something kind of greenish. And see, this is so quick and easy, and I haven't colored the eyes yet. We can go up here to the eyes. All right, so let's find where the eyes are. Here is that eyebrows and mustache. Here's the nose layer, which is just sitting there. We could actually delete that layer now. Let's go to the eyes. And if you notice, a lot of times, like in this picture, the whites of the eye are not gray or a different color. They're the same color in this photograph as the eyes themselves. And sometimes that will occur. This one is a different color. So let's try to first color that. And I'm just going to go over here just to start with. Get my eyedropper, click, and what do we got here? I got 20 and 24 for that. Let's see what that does, okay? So let's go over here. We'll go all the way up to looking for the eyes. We can do it above the pupils, so we'll do the whole thing here. We'll select the whole thing. We'll select the pupil layer, which is and then we'll go hue and saturation. And I think I've already forgotten those numbers. But a lot of times, when you use those numbers, they'll show up here. And see, now we've colored his eyes. And so it's very quick and effective way. Now, one last thing I want to talk about. And that is, well, first of all, I've got a drawing layer we can get rid of. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the layer. And I'm going to just select the whole layer, Command A, and just hit delete. Getting rid of that drawing. And we're going to rename this color. Because one other way we can color things too is we can set this layer to color. And if we color it using a brush, we can affect change. And I want to affect change by putting some different colors in the face to make it feel a little bit more roundish, because it's all these warm colors. Well, I'm going to select in here, for instance. And this is a little bit more of a gray color here in my eyedropper, like that. And I'm going to paint over here. Let's make this smaller. Let me get my brush. Now, I've set my opacity to 20. Let's bring it up to maybe 40% and 40% flow. And it may not look like I'm doing much, but we're affecting change in such a small manner. We could pick something off of here, maybe. Something different. Something kind of in the cool areas. Maybe something like that. And especially in the ear here. And it's very subtle. It's hard to tell. And I'm gonna paint a few more areas here, and then we'll turn them off and on, just so you can see the difference that I'm doing here. I'm starting to see it more. We can also bring up our opacity to maybe to 50. But what it's doing is and I like this color too. It's adding a different color in here. And we'll just turn this off and on so you can see here. It's subtle. It's very subtle. If you zoom in here, you'll see how subtle it is. But this is a great way to get some subtlety into your picture, okay? So, there's some nice, let's see here. I want to pick up something a little bit more pinkish, maybe over here. Let me have my brush. Let me get this color here. And let's paint some of that. I'll bring up my flow up to 70, so it won't take us so long. And I'm just changing these colors, and it's hardly noticeable. But if I turn it off and on, you'll be able to tell it. And let's go pick up something. I like to pick up something kind of grayish. We don't have to worry about value. So anything in the shadow areas is going to be a cooler color. So therefore, all the stuff in the warm areas. So let's turn this off and on. See that? It's so subtle. You might not be able to, if you're looking at this on a phone, you might not be able to see it. But this gives you such a nice color range here, because we can affect color very effectively. I'm going to come over here and pick up maybe this gray here and put it up under here. And maybe it goes into the mustache. We could even put it into here. You'll definitely see it here being effective. Anything, so I'm just changing some of the colors here. Let's say I want to make his tie a little bit more warm. See, you definitely see that. Okay, I like that color. Well, let's put this warmer color, because this is what I was kind of looking for to begin with, up here in the face in some of the areas. And it'll make it much more colorful than if we were just using the hue and saturation or just the gradient map. It does such a nice job because it gives you another level of color, and it's so subtle. And see, in the old days, I used to just color an image completely by using the color layer, by just going in there and coloring things. But I like using the gradient maps because they're fast, and I like using hue and saturation because it's also fast, all right? So those are 3 ways you can color your image, and once you're done, you can save it. Now, we can get rid of things we don't need, by the way, like we don't need that nose layer in this final version, all right? And any layer that you want to condense, like we could take the eyes and the pupil layer, unless we need to get to those individually. Like if we wanted to give him blue eyes, we might want to do something here. Actually, I'm going to invert this for a moment here. We'll do Shift Command I. Well, you know what? I'll just leave it. I was going to color outside of here a slightly different color, but I think it looks good the way it is. But anyway, you can save this, submit this. If this file is too big to go into D2L, you can always, for the color version, send a PNG or a JPEG, and that will complete this tutorial. So I hope this helps out, and we'll see what these look like, okay?